Love doesn't always end with closure. Sometimes it ends with silence, sometimes with betrayal, and sometimes with a truth you were never meant to find. This is Breakup Diaries. Stories about what really happens after love ends. Every night he was home by 9. Every night the door clicked, the floorboards creaked, and I felt safe. Until tonight. Tonight, Liam didn't come home. The clock ticked past 10, then 11, and every call I made went straight to voicemail. My chest tightened with a creeping dread I hadn't felt before. Something was wrong, though I couldn't yet name it. He had always been predictable. Liam was the kind of man you could set your watch by. Breakfast at 7, emails from 8 to 5, a short workout, and then home. That routine was comforting. It made life feel safe, ordinary, normal. But now, as I sat alone on the couch, the familiar hum of our apartment felt hollow. Warm kitchen light flickered across the walls, mocking the emptiness where he should have been. I tried to calm myself. He must have been held up at work, maybe traffic, it's nothing. Yet a small voice whispered, "This isn't nothing." I recalled the strange little things over the past months. The late nights he claimed were meetings, the phone he kept close even in my presence, the silences when I asked too many questions. I had dismissed them, called myself paranoid. Now, with one night stretching into the unknown, those moments didn't feel like coincidence anymore. They felt like pieces of a puzzle I hadn't wanted to see. I hugged a pillow, staring at the muted television. Every laugh track, every artificial cheer, felt like a reminder of the lie I was about to discover. Then my phone buzzed, a message from a number I didn't recognize. My heart stopped. It said only 3 words. "We need to talk." In that instant, I knew everything I believed about us, about him, might have been a lie. If you missed the beginning, Liam didn't come home last night. One night, and everything I thought I knew started to unravel. The apartment felt impossibly quiet, the kind of silence that presses down on your chest. My phone buzzed again, no name, no clue, just that same message. "We need to talk." I stared at it, frozen, my mind racing. Was this from him or someone else? I tried calling him again, dialing Liam's number until my fingers went numb. Each unanswered ring made my stomach knot tighter. I paced the living room, glancing at the clock every few minutes, hoping I'd hear the familiar jangle of his keys. But nothing came. Fear began to creep in, subtle at first, then impossible to ignore. He had always been dependable, the kind of man who prided himself on routines. One missed night was already breaking the sense of safety I had built around us. I thought back to the past months, trying to shake the unease. The business meetings that ran late, the text messages he deleted too quickly, the way he sometimes seemed distant even when sitting across from me. I'd pushed these thoughts aside before, convincing myself I was overthinking. But tonight, they all resurfaced like sharp shards of glass. Every time the door clicked in the hallway, I jumped, only to realize it was a neighbor returning from work. My heart raced, my hands shook. I wanted to believe he had a reasonable explanation: traffic, a last-minute work emergency, something innocent. But the doubt had already taken root, and I couldn't pull it out. By midnight, I couldn't sit still. I wandered through the apartment, opening drawers, checking pockets, looking for anything that might explain his absence. My mind kept returning to the message. Who sent it? What did it mean? And then, as the city lights flickered outside the window, I realized something that froze me. Liam's car wasn't in the driveway. Not there. Not even a shadow. The unease shifted into fear. This was no ordinary night. Something had happened, something I wasn't prepared to face. I sank onto the couch, gripping my phone, staring at the empty doorway, whispering to myself, "Please just come home, please just explain." But deep down, a gnawing certainty grew. Tonight was only the beginning. If you've been following, Liam didn't come home that night, and his car was nowhere to be seen. The message I received, "We need to talk," still burned on my screen, unanswered and impossible to ignore. Morning came with a false sense of calm. Sunlight filtered through the blinds, but the warmth couldn't reach me. Every sound in the apartment felt amplified, the fridge humming, the distant siren outside, even the ticking clock. Liam's absence had turned familiar noises into a chorus of anxiety. I tried calling again. Voicemail. No explanation, no apology, nothing. My mind raced through every small detail I had once brushed off. The missed calls, the secretive texts, the way he sometimes avoided my gaze when I asked too many questions. Each memory now felt like a warning I had ignored. I went through our apartment like a detective, scanning his belongings for any clue. Wallet, keys, jacket, all in place. Nothing seemed missing. Yet the sense that something was wrong clung to me, heavier than ever. As I sat on the edge of the couch, staring at the empty doorway, I remembered last week. How he had returned late from work, smelled different, claimed he'd been stuck in traffic. Back then, I laughed it off, called myself paranoid. But now, those small inconsistencies formed a line, leading somewhere I didn't want to go. I tried to distract myself, coffee, a book, the television, but nothing worked. Every quiet moment was filled with the echo of his absence and the unanswered message. The unease began to twist into fear. What if tonight wasn't random? What if it was the first glimpse of something deeper, something hidden? Then, as I reached for my phone again, a notification popped up from his email, sent overnight. I opened it with trembling hands. Nothing sinister at first glance, just a forwarded work document. But as I scrolled, I noticed the timestamp didn't match any meeting he'd mentioned. My stomach dropped. The cracks in my life, small and easily ignored before, were becoming impossible to dismiss. Something wasn't just off, it had been off for a long time, and I had been blind. A single thought consumed me. If this one night revealed a lie, what other truths have I been living in denial about? And just like that, what began as a missing night had opened a door I wasn't sure I wanted to step through. I thought last night was just an isolated mistake. But now, staring at the empty apartment and Liam's silent phone, I realized it was. Every late night, every vague excuse, every little lie over the past months suddenly made sense. They weren't accidents. I sat at the kitchen table, coffee untouched, staring at the stack of receipts, emails, and notes I had collected in a desperate attempt to find reason in the chaos. Late-night work, meetings, quick phone calls in the hallway, canceled plans. At the time, I had brushed them off, convinced Liam's life was just busy, that I was overthinking. But now, I saw them differently. Each small event was no longer isolated. They were pieces of a hidden puzzle, a map of deceit I hadn't wanted to follow. My hands shook as I flipped through the notes again, every realization like a weight pressing down on my chest. Then I noticed something I had never seen before, a pattern in his calendar. Meetings that were supposed to be local ended with him being hours away. The timing of certain texts coincided with those nights. Something wasn't just unusual, it was deliberate. I couldn't ignore it any longer. I grabbed my phone, scrolling through old messages I had saved. The ones he deleted in a hurry, the ones he brushed off as nothing, now felt like clues I had ignored. The deeper I looked, the more I realized how carefully he had constructed this hidden life. Every detail I had once dismissed now screamed for attention. A small knot of fear and disbelief tightened in my stomach. I had been living with someone I thought I knew completely. And yet, for months, maybe years, he had been living a secret, a life I hadn't been invited into. My heart pounded. What did this all mean? How far did the deception go? And most importantly, who was Liam really? I set my phone down, staring at the empty apartment around me. The reality was unavoidable. This one night had pulled back a curtain I wasn't prepared to face. Every familiar corner now seemed like a stage hiding truths I wasn't ready for. By now, the unease had grown too strong to ignore. Every late night, every small inconsistency, every secretive text had piled up until it formed a mountain I could no longer climb around. I had to know the truth. When Liam finally returned, the apartment felt smaller, the air heavier. His usual calm demeanor seemed forced, the casual smile hiding something I wasn't ready to face. My chest tightened, and I struggled to steady my voice as I asked the question that had been burning in my mind. "Where have you been?" For a moment, he didn't answer, and I could see the tension flicker across his face. Then, with a practiced shrug, he said, "Work ran late, you know how it is." Something about that tone didn't sit right. My stomach twisted as all the oddities from the past month surged forward. The unexplained meetings, the deleted messages, the sudden silences. They weren't random. "I don't believe you," I said, voice firm despite the trembling inside me. "Not this time, not anymore." Liam's defenses went up. "You're imagining things. It's not what it looks like," he replied, trying to regain control. But I pushed further, each question sharper than the last, my words cutting through months of deception. Every late night, every meeting, every excuse explained them. Now. He looked trapped, caught between what he had done and the mask he had maintained for so long. The tension between us was electric, every second stretching like a wire ready to snap. Finally, he exhaled, a faint admission slipping past his lips. "You're right, there's more." My heart sank. I had expected lies, maybe a minor secret, but hearing him admit that there was more sent a chill through me. This wasn't just a small betrayal, it hinted at a life I had never been part of, a truth that could change everything. I sank onto the couch, gripping my phone, staring at him, trying to prepare myself for whatever revelation was coming. The silence was deafening. And in that silence, I realized the confrontation was only the beginning. The secrets he had been hiding were still waiting, and I was about to uncover them all. Everything he had hidden came spilling out that night. Each word, each confession, cut through the carefully built life I thought I knew. Liam's half-truths, his secretive nights, the lies tucked into everyday routines, they were all laid bare, and I had no choice but to face them. "I needed you to know," he said, voice quiet, almost pleading. "I didn't mean for you to find out like this." I listened, letting the story unfold, the betrayal sinking in with every revelation. The man I thought I loved had been living a parallel life, one I had no part of. Anger, heartbreak, and disbelief collided inside me, but beneath it all, a clarity began to emerge. For the first time, I realized this wasn't just about him. It was about me, about the life I had been living in denial. The pain was real, yes, but so was my power to take it back. I could grieve, I could rage, but I could also reclaim the control I had unknowingly handed over. When he finally fell silent, I took a deep breath and made a decision. I wouldn't let his choices define me. I wouldn't be a shadow in someone else's story. I stood, cleared my space, and symbolically erased the traces of the life I had shared unknowingly. Messages, emails, reminders, everything that tethered me to deception. Yet even as I felt the weight lift, a quiet question lingered. Had I ever truly known him? That thought hovered like smoke in the room, unanswered, unsettling, but oddly freeing. It reminded me that some truths may never fully emerge, and that was okay. I walked to the window, watching the city lights flicker outside. The apartment felt different now, lighter, open, mine again. The past couldn't be undone, but the future was wide open, waiting for me to define it. And as I stepped into the quiet night, one subtle thought crossed my mind. Some doors close forever, and some remain just slightly ajar, hinting at possibilities whether I'm ready or not. The story had ended in one sense, but in another, it had just begun, my beginning.